So good morning students. So today the topic that we would like to discuss is the new topic probably, and it is the topic from photochemistry, namely consequence of light absorption and the Jablonski diagram. Means after the absorption of a particular wavelength photon or radiation, what is the fate of the molecule or atom when they go into excited state, and when they're returning back, then what will going to happen? What are the different process through which the molecule can lose its energy, whether it's radiative or non-radiative, or whether it can undergo a chemical reaction? That will be discussed in this chapter. Okay, so according to the principle of photochemical activation, only the light which is absorbed by the system can bring about a photochemical change. Means now all the lights, if you supply all the wavelength of light to the particular molecules or atoms, it will definitely not absorb all the light. Only certain lights which match the energy difference between the two preferred states, that light is only absorbed. Okay, so however, it is not essential that the light which is absorbed must bring about a photochemical change. And after that, suppose the molecule have absorbed the light energy or photon energy, but that doesn't mean that it will undergo some photochemical changes or undergo some process. It may lose its energy by the non-radiative process without doing anything, means without do any emission of photons or without doing any chemical changes. The absorption of light may result in a number of other phenomena as well. Means when the molecule absorbs lights, it doesn't mean that it will go to the excited states and undergo some secondary process, means some fluorescence, phosphorescence, or emission of radiation, some photochemical reaction. It can only be possible that the molecule only absorb the light energy and going to the higher excited states. So it is the simply absorption also. Okay, so for instance, the light absorbed may cause a decrease in the intensity of the incident radiation, means which happens in case of the absorption process. Means when light energy pass through a medium which contains some absorbing molecules, then the incident light intensity decreases according to the Beer-Lambert's law. We know that. Okay, we will be discussed later separately in a separate session on the Beer-Lambert's law. So in that case, we tell that light is only absorbed, nothing else is going to happen. So for instance, the light absorbed may cause a decrease in the intensity of the incident radiation. So this event is governed by the Beer-Lambert law. Secondly, the light absorbed may be re-emitted almost instantaneously in one or more steps. This phenomena is known as fluorescence. Means when light energy re-emitted almost instantaneously, this phenomena is known as fluorescence. The emission in fluorescence cause ceases with the removal of the source of the light. Means when you just remove the light source, or you just stop emitting, you stop irradiating your sample, then the phenomena of fluorescence, it suddenly stops instantaneously. Okay, so this is the instantaneous process. Means you instantaneously supply the radiation of light, the molecule go to the excited state, returning back to the ground state, and emitted a photon of particular wavelength. So this phenomena is fluorescence. The emission in fluorescence ceases with the removal of the source of light. Sometimes the light absorbed is given out slowly and even long after the removal of the light source. That means sometimes we observe that we just excite the sample with a certain wavelength of light, and the molecule emits a particular radiation of photon, but after certain time. Means when we it is also observed that when we just remove the light source, then also the emission of radiation is coming. So this type of radiation is called phosphorescence. And excited molecules can also lose its energy via non-radiative pathway. That means when neither emission of fluorescence or phosphorescence type radiation is observed, rather the molecule lose its energy in a non-radiative way. Means it loses its energy without losing any photon, in a thermal way. This process is called the internal conversion. And another process that I have not probably written here, it's called the VR, vibrational relaxation. Okay, so that is also discussed when the topic will come exactly. The phenomena of fluorescence, phosphorescence, internal conversion, and other process uh, huh. The phenomena of fluorescence, phosphorescence, internal conversion, and other process that a molecule or atom can undergo after excitation is best explained by a diagram which is known as Jablonski diagram. So in order to understand Jablonski diagram, we need to define some terminology. The first one is the spin multiplicity, because we frequently use the term singlet, triplet. These are basically spin multiplicity. Okay. Which is the spin multiplicity is defined by the 2s plus 1 term, where s is the total electron spin. So most molecules have even number of electrons, and thus in the ground state all the electrons are in the spin pair condition. As for example, I can say in case of nitrogen molecules, okay, total 14 electrons, 7 plus 7. So 14 electrons are arranged in the closed cell configuration in the MO level diagram. That means all electron are the spin pair condition. So if all electron are spin pair condition, then the resultant spin number means in a particular orbital, the electron with the upward direction, if I mention it as spin number plus half, and the downward direction as spin number minus half, in every orbital contain this type of pairing electron couple, and for their contribution is plus half and plus minus half, that becomes 0. So in that condition, the resultant spin number for nitrogen molecule becomes 0. So if S equal to 0 means resultant spin number of all the electrons, okay, then 2s plus 1, which is known as spin multiplicity, becomes 1. So in that way you can say that this molecule has spin multiplicity as singlet or 1. So ground state, the electron spin pair. Okay, so this is the demonstrative figure where I observe just shown that this is the ground state and this is the excited, and in the ground state 2 electrons are present in the same orbitals in the spin pairing condition, because we know that when the 2 electrons should have to be present in a particular orbital, then their spin has to be paired. So if the 1 electron has spin plus half for the upward direction, and if I mention the second electron spin number, it should be minus half. So total spin S equal to S1 plus S2 plus half plus minus half equal to 0. So from the previous discussion, we know that S, the resultant spin number, is 0. So the multiplicity, that is 2s plus 1 equal to 2 into 0 plus 1 equal to 1. So this spin multiplicity of that molecule is 1, and it is known as the singlet ground state. Okay. So another example I can give you, the triplet example. After the absorption of a photon of suitable energy, that is h nu, one of the paired electron goes to the higher energy level. Means initially it was in that condition. In ground state, both the electrons are in the same orbital with the spin pair condition, and once you excited with a suitable wavelength light, then one of the electron goes to the higher excited state. And if I assume that the second electron, which was in the downward direction, it goes to the upward, it goes to the higher energy level and taking the upward direction, means both the electrons are in the parallel spin, same direction. Okay. And in the another instant, I assume that the second electron, which just go excited state, means acquiring a spin state which is in the downward direction, means anti-parallel spin. So in both that cases, we would like to calculate the spin multiplicity. So this spin orientation of the 2 single electrons are either parallel, means this condition, or anti-parallel, that is this condition. Okay. So in parallel case, total spin number equal to S, total S equal to sum of these different S, S1 plus S2. So it becomes half plus half equal to 1. Okay. So multiplicity becomes 2 into 1 plus 1 equal to 3. So thus in that case, it is said that the molecule is in the triplet excited state. And if the spin are anti-parallel, means in that condition. Okay. So if the spin are anti-parallel, then S equal to S1 plus S2 equal to half plus half minus half, plus half minus half equal to 0. That means the multiplicity becomes 1. So at that condition, the molecule is in the singlet excited state. Since electrons can jump any one of the higher electronic state depending on the energy of the photon absorbed, you will get a series of singlet excited states like S1, S2, S3, and a series of the triplet excited state like T1, T2, T3, etc. And it has to be remembered that a particular singlet excited state has higher energy than the corresponding triplet excited state. That means, okay, first we would like to discuss. Suppose we give a sufficient amount of energy to the electron and it is not matching the energy gap between the S0 and S1. Probably it is matching the energy gap between S0 and S3. Okay, so if I give that much amount of energy, then electron will be promoted to the S3 state. Okay, so we know that for a particular arrangement, means this parallel and anti-parallel arrangement, this arrangement, or when the molecules are present in the singlet excited state, have slightly higher in energy than the corresponding anti-parallel arrangement, because according to the Hund's maximum spin multiplicity, we know that in a triplet arrangement the two electrons with the same spin can contain in different orbitals, and in the singlet state generally they are present in a closed shell configuration. So in the previous discussion we was discussed about the energy of the corresponding singlet and triplet states, and we just confirmed that a triplet state is just lower in energy from their corresponding singlet state, because in a singlet state we know that the two electrons should have to be placed in the same orbital. So at that condition the electrons should have to be overcome a huge amount of repulsion force of same charge. So because of that it contains higher energy, and in the corresponding triplet state we know that the two electrons of the same spin or direction can be placed in different orbitals. Means in the triplet state they are not present in the same orbitals, so they are generally present in the different orbitals. So they don't have to be overcome with this such type of huge amount of repulsion forces. Thus, a corresponding singlet state, as for example, if I take S3, means the third excited singlet state, is higher in energy than the corresponding third excited triplet state. Okay, so this is the explained in this condition in that particular session. And this is the Jablonski diagram. Here the ground state is generally singlet. So in these are the electronic state which is mentioned in the broad lines, and the small lines are basically vibrational levels. Means we know that within the electronic level lot of vibrational levels are situated, and in between vibration level also there must be a huge amount of rotational levels, but this is not shown here, and it's very difficult because when we deal with electronic transition then the rotational levels are immaterial. Okay, so this is the S0 state, and these are the corresponding first excited singlet state, S1 state, this is S2 state, and this is the S3 state. Okay, and the corresponding triplet state is a T1 is slightly lower in energy than S1, and the corresponding T2 is definitely slightly lower in energy than corresponding S2. So when we excite the molecules, so generally molecules are present in the ground state, in the ground minima, means in the S0 state, and in the V is equal to 0, means the lower vibrational level. Okay, so it instantaneously go to the higher excited state. So I have shown here in the S3 state, it can go any of the vibrational level. Okay, so I don't know exactly which line is touching any of the higher vibrational levels. So after that it will loses little bit energy and goes come in the ground level of this S3 state, means ground vibrational level of the S3 state, and this in this way means it loses some amount of energy to reach the ground vibrational level of S3 state. So this process is known as VR, means vibrational relaxation. It can collide with some other molecule that is present in the environment and lose slightly its energy in the non-radiative way, and come back to the lowest vibrational level of S3. Then it can lose its energy to come back to the S2 state via the non-radiative way, means it also loses its energy in a non-radiative way and come back to the S2 state. So this process is called the internal conversion. So it basically show the transition between S3 to S2. Similarly, after coming to the S2 state, it can come back to the again the S1 state or any of the higher vibrational level of the S1 state. Okay, so after that again it will lose some slight amount of energy which is known as Vr and come back to the ground vibrational level of the S1 state. So once it reach the S1 state, it can lose its energy via the non-radiative way, which is generally known as IC, means internal conversion, and it has some option that it can lose its energy in a radiative way, means emitting some photon and come back to the ground, any of the vibrational level of the ground state, S0 state. So this, when photon is emitted, this photon is known as fluorescence. This phenomena we can known as, we generally called it's a fluorescence phenomena. And if any of the vibrational level of the S1 state is exactly match in energy of the T1 corresponding T1 state, and if the molecular structure is such that it can help in spin orbit coupling, then there is a chance that the spin multiplicity can be changed from singlet to triplet and the molecule undergo ISC, means inter-system crossing. That means it's changed its multiplicity of spin from singlet to triplet and come back to the any of the higher vibrational level of the T1 state. And once it reaches the T1 state, it will lose some energy in VR process or vibrational relaxation process and reach the lowest vibrational level of the T1 state. And once it reaches the lowest vibrational level of the T1 state, it will lose its energy via emitting a photon and reach any of the higher vibrational level, or even directly can come back to the ground vibrational level of the S0 state. So this is known as phosphorescence, and it takes some time because there is a huge process. First is excited to the excited state, then you need to allow the molecule to undergo inter-system crossing process, and then it come back to the ground vibrational level of the T1, and then it can undergo phosphorescence. So it's a delayed process. Okay, and apart from that, we can and the time domain of these different processes are discussed here. Absorption is a very instantaneous process, and it can take place in the time range of 10 to the power minus 15 seconds. That means within a femtosecond range. And the fluorescence phenomena can take place 10 to the power minus 10 to 10 to the power minus 7 second, means for different molecules, different time domain. But on an average, fluorescence phenomena can take place in nanosecond range. That means 10 to the power minus 9 second. And the phosphorescence takes place from microsecond, means 10 to the power minus 6 to 10 to the power minus 3, or even higher than that, means 1 second or even 10 second also. Very delayed phosphorescence is also observed. So its time domain is little bit lengthier. And then the internal conversion, that is IC, which takes place 10 to the power minus 11 to 10 to the power minus 9 second time scale. And the VR, that is vibrational relaxation, which takes place between 10 to the power minus 12 to 10 to the power minus 10 second range. And the inter-system crossing, or ISC, takes place 10 to the power minus 8 to 10 to the power minus 10 to the power minus 10 to 10 to the power minus 8 second time scale range. So these are the different photophysical process that takes place when a molecule absorbs some particular amount of photon energy and reach the excited state, and after reaching the excited state, it can undergo different processes. So these are the Jablonski diagram. So when a molecule is irradiated with a suitable wavelength of light, it is said to be excited. Okay, thus if suppose A0 is the molecule which is present in the ground state, and we supply the requisite amount of energy, means requisite amount of energy of a photon h nu, and then the molecule becomes S star, means excited state. Okay, so A0 is the molecule in the ground state and A star is the molecule in the excited state. So after absorption, the activated molecule may return to the ground state by dissipating energy through the following types of process. Means that we have already discussed through the diagram. Now we would like to discuss with more details and the different process that takes place when the molecule becomes excited and returning back to the ground state. The first one is the non-radiative processes. This transition involves the return of the activated molecules from the higher excited states such as S3, S2 or T3, T2, etc. to the fast excited state, that is S1 or T1, and also from the fast excited singlet S1 to S0 state. Okay, so the IC process can take place from the higher excited state, means S3 to S2, from S2 to S1, and also from S1 to S0. Okay, and also from T3, T2 to T1, which is not probably shown here. You can draw for yourself T2 to T1, but not T1 to S0. because T1 to S0, again you have to do some spin orbit coupling or do some intersystem crossing. So generally IC is not observed between T1 and S0. Remind it, okay? So these transitions do not involve the emission of any radiation, because that's why it's called as non-radiative transition, and they and are thus referred to as the non-radiative transition. Okay, so internal conversion and inter-system crossings fall within this category. Means both the internal conversion and ISC, both this process lose its energy of the excited molecules. Okay, so these are fall within this category. In the radiation-less process, excess amount of energy is lost to the environment as a thermal energy, because if you have to lose its energy and if you are not emitting any photon or radiation, then definitely you have to lose your energy in terms of heat, that is the system becomes heated. So first one is the first one is the internal conversion. So when a molecule loses its energy in a non-radiative way and returning from the S3 to S2 or S2 to S1 or S1 to S0 and also from T3, T2 to or T2 to T1 states, the process is called the internal conversion. We have already discussed this thing, it's just the repeating these things. So it takes place within a time scale of 10 to the power minus 11 to 10 to the power minus 9 seconds. And the next process within this category means non-radiative is the inter-system crossing, ISC. So this process takes place between the states of the different spin multiplicity, that is from S2 to T2 or S1 to T1, etc. So their transition are also non-radiative or radiationless. Spectroscopically, such transitions are forbidden, because we know that the spectroscopic rules is the transition that is allowed between the same spin multiplicity, means singlet to singlet, triplet to triplet, but not from triplet to singlet. Because in that case, what happened, the intersystem crossing, the molecule is changing its spin multiplicity from singlet to triplet. So spectroscopically, such transitions are forbidden. When the structure of the molecule is rigid, means suppose you have a molecule which is not a small in structure, as for example, if my molecule is naphthalene or anthracene, the four benzene ring is fused together to give a very rigid type of structure. Okay, then or if there is a considerable spin orbit coupling, then the relaxation, then the selection rule becomes little bit relaxed, and because of the spin orbit coupling, the multiplicity of the spin can change from singlet to triplet. And ISC occurs. So ISC occurs within a time scale of 10 to the power minus 10 to 10 to the power minus 8 second. Okay. And the second category through which a molecule loses its energy is the radiative transition. This transition involves the return of the activated molecule from the singlet state, that is S1 state, or the triplet state T1 state to the ground state S0. Such transitions are accompanied by the emission of radiation. Spectroscopically, S1 to S0 transition is an allowed transition, and we know that it is known as fluorescence and occurs within a time scale of 10 to the power minus 10 to minus 7 second. The emission of the radiation of this category or transition is called the fluorescence. The transition from the triplet excited state, that is T1 to S0, is rather slow, since it is a forbidden transition in spectroscopic selection rule. The emission of radiation of this transition is called phosphorescence. The lifetime of the phosphorescence is much larger than fluorescence, and being in the order of 10 to the power minus second to 10 to the power minus 3 second or even greater, since the transition involves the spin inversion and which needs time for its occurrence. Because of that, the phosphorescence process is a slow process, rather fluorescence. And the third process which can take place when an excited molecule can do is the chemical reaction. The activated molecule may also lose energy by undergoing a chemical reaction. Since the molecule is in singlet excited state, returns quickly to the ground state, it gets no chance to react chemically. Because if the molecule is excited, if you excite the molecule by a certain wavelength of radiation, then the molecule instantly go to the singlet excited state or any of the excited state, SN excited state. Okay, but when they return back to the ground state, means S0 state, it's an instantaneous process, takes place within 10 to the minus 9 second. Or even if it loses energy by non-radiative way, then it's much faster, 10 to the minus 12 second, the IC process. So in this process, no chemical reaction can take place. The molecule in a triplet excited state, however, returns to the ground state comparatively slowly, as explained above. This provides ample scope for the activated molecule to undergo a chemical reaction. Thus, the molecule which undergo chemical reaction is the one which is previously in a triplet excited state. That means whatever a photodynamic therapy or the whatever a photochemical reaction we are going to discuss, or we will discuss in the later session, definitely the molecule should be present in the triplet excited state, not the singlet excited state. Okay.